What's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another piece of Dragon Ball Super news. This time we're going to talk about the Parsippany event. We're going to talk a little about the top 8. It was a pretty interesting event, and I'm joined here by Cam Williamson, winner of the Team Chicago event, a DBS judge, and a streamer for the community. What's going on, Cam?
I'm doing pretty well. How about you, man?
Doing good. So Cam reached out to me. He wanted to talk about this top cut with me because I know he actually made a big post on the Facebook group talking specifically about the fact that announcer topped, and we're going to talk about that, but we're going to go through the top 8 and just give our thoughts on certain things. You guys have heard my thoughts on a lot of these different decks already because I've already done the coverage for the top 16 of Dallas, so I'm just going to give my brief bullet points, give some opinions on it, and I'm going to let Cam kind of go into his thing as well. So here we go. We'll start with the first deck in top cut, Super Shenron. I don't think anyone's surprised that this deck topped. I'm actually surprised it didn't top more. I don't know the overall attendance of this deck in the general kind of Swiss population, but this was a blue-yellow storm variant, so it wasn't the Height of Mastery variant. It wasn't the pure yellow storm variant. It was blue-yellow. So yeah, I'm surprised not more decks topped. Cam, what are your thoughts?
So this deck, just taking a look at it, is definitely a Hill Twin creation. I know that Hernandez mentioned that this build was something that they've been working on back and forth. What I do find interesting is that the Height of Mastery Son Goku package is actually out of the sideboard rather than being played in the main deck. I think that is a very powerful strategy to obviously, finalize and lock down a win, especially once you're going to take your extra turn. But I definitely like this build, being able to chain, basically having 7 Bulmas in the deck with the 4 Bulmas and the 3 Prephase is definitely very strong. Also, having access to Senzu Bean is probably one of the strongest cards you can have if you tend to splash blue.
Yeah, it's really good, the mirror. Like, when you have Nimbus and Bean, you're super well equipped for the mirror match. And the height build, like, when Marcus got 3rd place in Chicago for the singles event, like, he sided the height package in his Storm Super Shenron deck, and it's just so good against certain decks. I think that's why people are starting to see that shift towards Super Shenron just being height focused in general. It's just so good in certain matchups. But we'll move along to the next deck. So coming in second, we had AOD Dende, which actually did not even hit top cut in Dallas, and to me that was pretty surprising. This is definitely one of the stronger decks in the format. If Super Shenron isn't the best deck in the format, I think this deck is arguably the next strongest deck in the format. But Cam, what are your thoughts on it?
So this is a deck I kind of swore by going forward into this format. I swore that I didn't want to play Super Shenron only because the deck to me felt way too dirty. So this deck was kind of how I was able to play dirty and not feel bad. So this deck, ultimately, I'm surprised that it didn't have a bigger showing, but the deck is easy to lose to itself.
Yep.
It's what people would consider the cell chain of the current meta. It just ends up losing to itself, and you tend to have very bad matchups the minute your Boo SCR goes into drop, or you find it in your life. You kind of have to play weird angles, and most of the people that want to pick up this deck, I believe, should practice more with it. I think people expect to win more with it, but I'm glad someone was able to take it into second place and be able to give it the showcase that it actually needed to prove that this deck is tier 1 top tier deck.
Yeah, this deck's definitely top tier. I mean, it's so good. I think the price tag on the SCR, though, is going to deter a lot of people from playing this deck, because even like Green Broly, which I'm also very surprised missed this top cut in general. Green Broly is still playable without the SCR. It's not as powerful, but it's definitely playable. This deck obviously is not playable without the SCR. And just a side note, looking at this guy's side deck is actually really funny to me, because it's just 3 or 4. It's 4 different cards, but like it's all 4 of for the most part. He's got the 2 extra Achilles Zones, the 4 Dark Power Black Mass Saiyans, the 4 Kronoas, and the 4 Tiens. I guess he was really afraid of those decks. But in all fairness, it is kind of hard to make room in this deck. Like, every single card in this main deck is vital to the strategy, so I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
Moving on to the next deck, we've got 3 different Broly variants, yellow Broly that is, not green Broly, in this top cut. So we have 2 height, both playing Victory Strike. That is kind of like a flavorful thing we're seeing nowadays. Some height builds are not playing Victory Strike, but those that have it, it's kind of like the why not play it. So two height Victory Strike. One was playing 2 Shugesh, one was playing 4 Shugesh, and we had another Broly Veggie deck that was playing 4 Shugesh. And in my opinion, this definitely was the event to take a Shugesh deck to. I think Dallas and this event were both the decks to take Shugesh to, because over the course of celebrations, Kronoa was seeing less and less play in sideboards. Me and my team actually looked at those analytics, and we kind of that's why a lot of my teammates took Broly decks to Dallas, because Kronoa was seeing less and less play. And I think this was definitely the event to kind of take a Shugesh deck too, because it was best of one for the main event. Only I think 3 decks in this top cut spread main decked Cronoa. If that is any representation to the rest of Swiss, that means that you had a pretty good shot of dodging Cronoa playing this deck in the best of one. So Cam, what are your thoughts on Yellow Broly?
So I've always been fascinated by this leader. I think that this leader has great utility, being a high self-awakener and being able to have access to cards such as Cold Bloodlust, which I think is probably one of the best cards right now in the meta. Obviously, if you have a Victory Strike, play the Victory Strike in the height package. But being able to, I feel like this deck has such an opportunity to just shoot out, get itself to 4 life, and drop a Shugesh. You can probably get it on a turn. On a turn 2, you get a Shugesh being able to drop, and when you get into turn 3, 4, being able to go into the height package and then being able to Victory Strike. I can see why this deck was able to play so well, especially taking into account the fact that it was best of 1. Although what I do want to mention out of the sideboard is that you have 2 Son Goku striving to be the best, and that is definitely something that I did not expect, because those are the only 2 blue cards in his deck. So he's relying on one of those cards to be in his energy to play the other striving to be the best. And it's that I think is very risky. I don't agree with that, but this guy got 3rd place, so I'm not going to complain.
Yeah, that actually is really interesting. I kind of looked over that in a sideboard. I didn't realize what that card was. But yeah, it's super interesting. I think he's also just relying on Shugeshing it out, but like the awkward thing is, like, you probably expect a lot of people to side deck Cronoa, even if the data shows that Cronoa is being taken out of sideboards, because even if your opponent doesn't have the answer, you kind of always have to assume they have the answer. So, like, in this case, this player decided to side in Striving, which I think he was probably depending on Shugesh to get out for the most part. Of course, if you see one, you charge one, and then you play the other one. But, yeah I think he was depending on Shugeshing it more, but it's kind of a weird side deck in, because if you're assuming your opponent's going to side deck in Cronoa, it kind of makes this a bad sideboard, but I guess it worked for him. I'm sure this was more for just like the skillless matchup than anything else, but the height package already just kind of wrecks skillless. And I really think that if this deck is not, if we don't want to call this a Super Shenron format, I think this is a height format. Height just seems like the strongest win con right now.
Absolutely. Also, I keep mentioning that we keep mentioning best of 1 when there's side decks, so there has to be best of 3.
Right. I believe it was best of 1 for Swiss and then best of 3 for Top Cut, right?
Really? I didn't. I thought it was best of 3 for the entire thing.
No, I'm pretty sure it's best of 1 for Swiss and then best of 3 for the for top 8.
That's definitely a very interesting way to host a tournament. I actually kind of like. I like that a little bit.
Yeah, there's been other games and other events that have been hosted like that. In earlier parts of the game, they had more tournaments like that, and yeah, it's a pretty interesting concept. It's definitely good for a smaller scale event. I think if this event was a little bigger, I think people would have kind of not been super happy about that, but not too bad.
Yeah,
and now we'll get. Oh, sorry. Do you want to say something about that?
No. I agree with you.
Okay, cool. Now we'll get to the deck that I know Cam really wants to talk about. I'll give my thoughts on it first. I hear him like washing his hands together. So we've got Announcer. So it was really cool to hear that Announcer topped this event. And you know, a lot of people at my locals actually play this deck, and it's no joke. Like, you cannot just sit across from Announcer and think that you're gonna have an easy win no matter what deck you're playing, except maybe Super Shenron, but that's besides the point. So yeah, it was really cool to see his leader in Top Cut. I think it's really interesting how he main decked the Roshi Shen package, because it does draw a ton of cards, but I think overall that the Krillin Chaozu package is just overall stronger because of that crit pressure, and you draw a very similar amount of cards. And I'm really curious to know what he kind of like sideboarded that in for, or what he sideboarded the Roshi Shen package out for. And I'm also really interested to know what the Scuffle Time package for was. So Cam, if you can shed any light on that, or if you want to give your opinion on this deck, go for it. The floor is yours.
Oh no, absolutely. So this deck was, as you know, the first deck that I really started playing competitive DBS with, and I was so happy to hear that this deck actually was able to make a top cut, because I personally believe that Announcer is one of those decks that just kind of was left behind. It has the tools from World Mat to deal with certain cards in the meta, and because of the power booster coming out for World Mat, I think this deck's going to get incredibly stronger. A few things I have about this deck is that if he was playing the Master Roshi, Master Shen package, I'm kind of surprised that we didn't see Nimbuses in the main board. I understand why he wanted to play Least Coercion. Having the untap to be able to play your Announcers play-by-play and your Power Burst is very, very powerful. And also, I like how he had the Krillin and Chiaotzu package in the sideboard. In game one, I feel like if once you're going into best of one, your goal is to be able to just make sure you draw, have your answers, have the combo fodder for a lot of these decks that tend to go tall and sometimes wide. You also want to be able to protect yourself against the Height of Mastery and Victory Strike plays, since most of the time, if you can probably combo out the Victory Strike. And I do like that he was able to include the secret rare. I think that in a best of one, yeah, you charge it early if you need to, but if you're able to drop that, it is such a sleeper secret rare that, in my opinion, that can steal games easily. The only thing I don't like is that playing yellow, he didn't have access to cards like Battering in case he wanted to go in on something. I mean, my announcer deck plays the Vegeta Goku combo, so I'm more apt to play the Battering in the sideboard or even in the main. But I do like that he used the Scuffle Time Boo, because with the Scuffle Time Son Goten, all he has to do is just tuck the Boo, and he bounces a card back to its owner's hand. So problematic cards such as, I can see it being played maybe when they play their Bulma, instead of comboing away or something like that, bounce to your hand even though they can combo away later, or other problematic cards in the meta, so to speak. I think being best of one is where this deck really shined, and that's why you saw it kind of make a top cut. So I'm glad that it's back. It's getting a little spotlight, and I really do hope that the power boosters give it the boost that it actually needs to be good, really, really good again.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what the WMAT power booster brings, especially because I said, we're getting like 20 different cards, right, in that power booster?
20 different cards, all revolving around World Mat. And, statistically speaking, we're getting 20 cards, they shouldn't be garbage. I feel like one of them is going to be actually, or a few of them should be actually wicked good for this deck to play. And if the power booster cards are actually good again, making these decks good again, Hercule, I think, is going to be a deck that should be able to come back with a vengeance. Yeah,
man, we might see the resurgence of Hercule. We might see, every single card should be playable in an announcer, unless they're like no, they should definitely all be playable in an announcer. They should all be World Martial Arts tournaments. And then Jackie Chun's a favorite of mine, so I'm excited to see what they print for these different archetypes. It's gonna be really cool to see. And I was actually thinking about this the other day, like, since my teammates took a Shugesh deck to Dallas, I almost wanted to take a Shugesh deck to this event. I almost went to this event, but the prizing kind of made me not feel like it was very worth it. Plus, it was Easter weekend. But I almost want to take a Jackie Chun Shugesh deck playing Goku Oob. I think Goku Oob's a great combo right now because, putting those Bulmas to the bottom of the deck is actually a really solid way to deal with Super Shenron. So, yeah, I really love this deck overall. Really cool to see it top, and I'm really excited for those WMAT boosters.
I'm excited too. I'm working on a few secret World Mat decks, so I can see if anyone wants to play them in Springfield and rep the World Mat guys. We can definitely get some tops going.
Heck yeah. So next we got Janemba Mill. So this is really cool. A lot more of this top to Dallas, which I mentioned I was very surprised about in that video. One, I feel like in a top 8 seems appropriate because, TN was in pretty much every sideboard that I've seen so far. But a really funny thing about this deck is that this guy's sideboard is literally all one-ofs, which I find to be like just hilarious. Like one Champa, one Button, one Borgos, one King Yemma, which I'm actually really surprised he even sideboarded. And then like all the one-of black cards, Demigra, TN, Mercenary Tau. It's super funny. But yeah, this deck overall I think it is really solid.
Yeah, it's I would say that it's your run-of-the-mill Janemba deck. The only thing that I see that's a little bit different is excuse me, he's playing the Sneak Attack Vegetas in the main. That obviously is negating opponent's hand advantage. And if you haven't noticed, look at the super combo split. He's doing 3-1. That is interesting. This is definitely a Janemba deck that I feel someone was like, oh man, I don't have an extra 4th Great Saiyaman. Do you have one? All right, well, I have a North Kai, so this pretty much works the same exact way. And then, one awe-inspiring Vegeta, one Pilaf, one Burgos. I mean, the deck I played in Chicago, I was playing, 4 Burgos. I was playing 4 Saiyaman. I was playing 2 Strivings, 3 Strivings in the main. I played, 4 Demon Sword Janemba. I only played 2 of the Agent of Destruction Janemba. 2 or 3, and I actually had Mafubas in the sideboard. I really don't think having one-ofs in the sideboard is a valued plan, but I can see why he just kind of wanted options to, for every deck in the format. I mean, I also played Xenobutton main, which tend to make my opponents a little mad, but that's just me. I love that card.
Yeah, like some of his one-ups on the sideboard, he's got Toki Toki to fetch, which makes sense, but the rest of them are kind of weird. Like, I think this guy was also partly trolling. Maybe he just didn't have better cards to sideboard, but he's got a one of Super Saiyan Goku Vanilla in the sideboard, which is pretty weird. And actually, looking over the deck again, there's no Unbreakable in this deck. I believe, if I'm not missing it.
No, there isn't.
What do you think about that? Because to me, that's really just weird and kind of wrong.
Yeah, in Janemba, you definitely want to be able to have you want to have the 12 super combos in your deck, even though 8 of them are pseudo combos, because the point of the deck is basically swing your leader and pray. And on the return, you want to make sure that all those small little swings that people are throwing out, all those 10Ks, all those 15Ks, you just go, okay, combo this, draw a card. That's so much value right there. And losing 4 of those combos is, to me, hindering the deck. I mean, then again, this person topped 8, and that's a whole different thing, but it looks like this, if the format's true and you said in being best of 1 for Swiss and then best of 3 for the top cut, I can kind of see why he had all of these one-ofs in the deck, because, with it being best of 1, you kind of want to have all your options available.
Right.
So, I mean, that's the only way I can look at this. I mean, it hurts a little bit not to see the Unbreakables, but that's the only way I can kind of justify this.
Yeah, it's really interesting, but nonetheless, he did top. Congratulations to that player. And then the last different deck. So we had all singleton decks in Top Cut except for Super Shenron. So that's really interesting. But now we come to our last one of deck in Top Cut, Lord Slug. So this is something that we've seen. It's top Chicago. It topped a few events here and there. It kind of goes in and out of Top Cut. I think it depends on the pilot, and I think it depends on the popularity, because I don't think this deck is all that popular, but I think it is a very powerful hand control deck. And the blue green variant is something I've wanted to see for a while, because it's what I tested in set 6 before set 6 actually came out, and I thought abusing the one drop blue Bobbity would be really, really good. But now, like, I've just seen mono green top here and there, and I think that the blue build may be just more greedy than mono green. And yeah, we've continued to see mono green. I think with 7 blues like this guy plays, I think it's a little bit greedy. But yeah, it's also really interesting how he main decked the SCR Boo. I guess it kind of like the announcer deck, where you main deck the SCR Goku Oob. It's just like, in case a game goes real late game, you have the option to just win the game kind of outright with a triple strike that drops a bunch of other dudes on board. So I think this is a really cool deck to see in Top Cut. Cam, what are your thoughts?
This deck, to me, is trying to combine Lord Slug and Dende AOD. Reason why is that because if you look, it has 7 Agent Destruction. Janemba Agent Destruction is probably one of the best ones that was printed. But I think this deck was designed with the concept of being able to surprise people with the Arcane Absorption Majin Buu and getting back all of those AODs, especially with Slug coming in going, hey, I'm going to make you drop cards, and then Janemba going, hey, by the way, I'm going to make you mill cards and I'm going to draw cards. I like the Lord Slug plan. Definitely, I think the deck thrives more in a best of 1 format. I think that the deck is obviously one of those rogue outlier decks that is going to be seen every once in a while. But with a lot of the sideboard cards that you see nowadays, and especially in this current meta, if this were to go to a best of 3 tournament, like say going to a high ARG or regionals that are coming up soon, I don't see this deck doing as well. I'm glad that this person was able to make a showing and get to Top Cut, but as I mentioned prior, it thrives more in a best of 1 format rather than a best of 3 format.
Yeah, no, I pretty much agree. Especially, like, I feel like Tau is even not often played in sideboards anymore. I feel like people just aren't that afraid of hand control. I feel like ever since kind of like Shenron hand control took a little bit of a hit, like, people haven't really been playing much hand control, and obviously since Cell Chain took a hit. But I do want to mention that I'm dumb because I completely overlooked the Janemba AOD. So there are 10 blues in the deck, which makes it a little better for me to think about this as a blue-green build. But yeah, I do agree. I think this is a cool deck in Top Cut, but I think if a hand control deck ever came into kind of the limelight, I think we would just see more people play Tau on their sideboard or main board, and it would cause just like a weird fluctuation like that. But that's all of top 8. So yeah, like I said, all singleton decks except for 3 Brolys, which again, I am very surprised that there was no green Broly in Top Cut. So Cam, you want to give your finishing thoughts about the event, what you think, things like that?
So as just like you, I was debating on going to this event, but pricing kind of barred me from going. If if I were to go to this event, seeing how Dallas was going to take away more, I would have bit the bullet and probably played Super Shenron Storm, only because that deck is absolutely busted. And being able to use Dragon Radar and Child's Wish to basically make your energy free is the best way to win in this format right now. But for me, I am glad that this top 8 had so much diversity. I'm glad that we had a good showing. Congratulations to Top Cut for throwing their first ever DBS event. I hope you guys actually do more into the future. You guys hold amazing Pokemon tournaments from what I hear. I would love to see you guys and possibly work with you guys in the future. I hope nothing for the best. I'm glad that Announcer came back into the spotlight, because the minute I put that up and it was announced, everyone was like, oh, I need to buy these cards for Announcer, these cards for Announcer, or like, what's the list? And it was just really cool to see that there's a little cult following behind this leader. And I'm just incredibly thankful to be on, and that you let me come on and help you discuss the top 8. And I hope that I'm able to work with you on future projects, man. I really am.
100%, man. Absolutely. Thank you for coming on. Yeah, I agree. I'm so happy that Top Cut is another company stepping up to host DBS events. And I hope you don't take what we say, if you guys do watch this, I hope you guys don't take what we say about the prizing too personally, just because I know personally you guys got way too much event pack 2 and all that good stuff, and you guys need a way to get rid of it. I totally understand that, and keep hosting events, because I know that when you guys do give an event with more current up-to-date pricing, I know that people will be there. So hopefully that the attendance didn't deter too much from the event, and hopefully you guys are able to get rid of all that old product and now just move on hosting more current Dragon Ball events. So we thank you so much for hosting these events. Top Cut, thank you so much. And Cam, thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you guys next time. Hey guys, now that you made it this far, listen good, listen close. In this pile of bulk behind me, I've got a Victory Strike just sitting there unsleeved, just minding its own business, just wants to be played, just wants to be used, just wants to, cheese people out of wins. And I swear, if you don't hit the subscribe button or check out some of our other videos right now before clicking off this video, I'm gonna rip it to shreds. I'm gonna tear it up. I'm gonna waste $500 if you guys don't hit the subscribe button or check out some of our other videos. I swear, I'll do it. I really will.